Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So once again, I extend my appreciation and thanks to Holiness Devarupa Swami for giving me the opportunity to have all of your association for the next several days. We'll be presenting a seminar which is entitled, on the screen you can see it there, the character or the heart of a Vaishnava. And as I was explaining a little bit last night, we'll look at what it means to have the character, the personality traits, the inner strength, all those things which combine together to give us character. what is characteristic, what is what does it look like, what does it feel like, how do we act in terms of the character of a Vaishnava, and how that overlaps with the heart we'll discuss in the various sessions that we have. So to begin, we'd like to make an offering to Srila Prabhupada, to all of you here today, an offering that basically is a sort of a unique prayer so that we may be successful in presenting the subject matter to you, and that it may be enlivening to you. And we're going to do that in the form of a story. Madhumati Dasi is going to read an instructive, illustrative story, which will set the mood for what we hope to achieve over the next several days. So I'll let her read.
Hare Krishna, everybody. So I'm the hired storyteller, so any of the stories that are being told, I've been asked to tell. So this is my first story. This story, by the way, these are not bedtime stories. It's more like fasten your seatbelts and be alert. So no drowsing off when I'm telling the story. So this story is from the Mahabharata. It is told by, what I'm reading is told by Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And it's about a guru and his disciple. Guru, you must have heard Dhaumya, and his disciple Upamanyu. So this is how the story goes. The guru ordered the disciple Upamanyu, Upamanyu, take care of my cows. This is your seva. So Upamanyu was taking care of the cows. Early in the morning, he would get up and perform Mangala Arati and take the cows to the jungle, and then he would return in the evening and offer dhanavats to his spiritual master. After a few days, Dhaumya, the guru, saw that Upamanyu was getting a little fat. He told him, Upamanyu, you're getting fat. Are you eating something? With folded hands, Upamanyu said, Dear Gurudev, I collect some bhiksha, alms. I go to 4 or 5 houses, beg some food, and eat it. Who told you to do this? Have you taken my permission? Why are you doing this if I have not given you permission? You must not do this anymore. When you go to collect bhiksha, you should give it to me, as it belongs to me. It is not yours. How can you accept it? Upamanyu said, I agree, Gurudev. What you have said, I will do. From then on, every day, Upamanyu would collect bhiksha and would give it to his guru. A few evenings later, as he was paying obeisances, the guru said again to Upamanyu, You have given the bhiksha you have been collecting to me. Still, I see that you're getting fat. Are you eating something? Gurudev, the first time I go to collect bhiksha, whatever I collect, I give you everything. And the second time I go, whatever I get, I keep. That is not good. If you do like this, you will develop greed. I have not told you to do this thing. Why are you doing it? Stop it. You cannot do it. Yes, Gurudev, I won't do that. I accept. Again, after a few days, in the evening, the Guru observed, Upamanyu, I have forbidden you to accept bhiksha for yourself, and instructed you to give it all to me. You're giving me, but still, you're getting fat. Are you eating something? Yes, Gurudev. I drink some of the cow's milk. You drink some milk from the cows? Who told you to do that? No, you should not do that. It is not your duty. Stop it. Intense, yeah? But Upamanyu was very humble. He said, yes, Gurudev, I won't do it anymore. He accepted what his Guru said and he stopped that activity. A few days passed. One evening, the Guru said, my dear Upamanyu, I have forbidden you to accept any bhiksha and you're giving me everything. I forbade you to drink the milk of the cows and I think you're falling dead. Yet I still see that you are becoming fat. Are you eating something? Yes, Gurudev. When the calves drink milk, some foam is there. Some foam is there over their mouths, and I lick that. Why are you doing this? Who told you to do that? The cows are very merciful and affectionate to you, so they will give you more foam. Then you will become much fatter. No, stop it. You can't do it. Yes, Gurudev, I will not do it. Guru Govinda Maharaj says, so strict, the Guru stopped everything. You're always thinking, oh, what is this Guru Seva? I cannot do this, better to perform Maya Seva. However, he continues, however, what his Guru said, Upamanyu accepted. He was a humble, sincere devotee. He did not violate the instruction of his Guru. But one day he was very hungry. He could not tolerate the hunger. What to do? His Guru had stopped everything. He had nothing to eat. He thought, how can I serve my Guru? I am so hungry. If my body fails, then I won't be able to know. How can I serve my Guru? He then took some leaves of an arka bush, which are poisonous. He ate them and at once became blind. Then he fell into a deep, dark well. Now, this is not a deep, dark well of Grihastha life. He fell into a deep, dark well. In India, you know, if the grass grows on it, so the well, you don't know there is a well. Just the grass grows all over it, and so you don't realize. So anyway, so he was blind and he fell into a deep, dark well. That evening, he could not return to his Guru's ashram with the cows. And the Guru noticed that Upamanyu had not returned. He wondered what had happened to him. The Guru was thinking deeply of his disciple. Guru has affection for his disciple, although outwardly he is very heavy. That is sadhu. He is like a coconut, outwardly very hard, but inside very soft. So the Guru thought, Upamanyu has not returned today. Because I stopped his eating, he became very distressed. Therefore, he has not returned. He took a few disciples with him and went to the jungle to search for Upamanyu, loudly calling, Upamanyu, where are you? Upamanyu, where are you? From inside the well where he had fallen, Upamanyu shouted, Gurudev, I'm here. I've fallen into a deep, dark well. The Guru went there and saw that Upamanyu had become blind and by eating those poisonous leaves. He told Upamanyu, offer prayers to the Ashwini Kumars. They are physicians of the heavenly planets. So he said, offer prayers to them and they will give back your eyesight. Upamanyu offered prayers to them and they came and gave him a cake and said, Upamanyu, take this cake and eat it. You will then get your eyesight back. What do you think Upamanyu did? Anybody would like to say how did Upamanyu respond to that? Yes?
Offered it to his Gurudev?
Pretty good? He learned something.
He didn't eat the cake?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
He didn't eat the cake?
Yes, he didn't eat the cake. And what do you think he said to the Ashwini Kumars? Well, you're right about what he didn't eat the cake. He said, no, I cannot eat it without my guru's permission. Then the Ashwini said, there is no harm. Previously, when your guru offered prayers to us, we gave him one such cake and he ate it. Your guru has done it, so you can also do. And Upamanya said, no, please excuse me. I cannot imitate my guru. My guru may do that, but I cannot. I cannot imitate him. Without the permission of my guru, I cannot eat. Actually, Prabhupada mentions that about the disciples should not even eat unless the spiritual master calls. So you can see here, this is what he realized. They saw his Guru Bhakti and very pleased with him, they gave him their blessings. All of your teeth will become golden and you will have very nice eyesight. You will develop transcendental vision. Upamanya got out of the well and offered Dandavat Pranams to his Guru, who told him, you have passed the test successfully. You have all my blessings. Obtaining the blessings and mercy of his Gurudev, Upamanya developed pure Krishna Bhakti. All Vedic Tattva, Siksha and Gyan, truth, learning and knowledge became manifest to him. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhagavati. As I said, this story is illustrative, so I'm not quite sure that it didn't mean that the deep dark well of the household life. But there are at least three things that we can take from this as we begin our process of trying to understand the qualities, the characteristics of a Vaishnava. First is that Vaishnava Kre Muja Vigay Na Mujaya. It's very difficult, it's impossible actually, to understand the mind and the workings of the Vaishnava. Here we see the Guru, he acted in ways in which were surprising, I think, to all of us. Not even letting his disciple take the foam from the lips of the cow. So strict was he. But was he really strict? What was his real intention? What was his motive in doing that? It was obviously something else. He had great affection for his disciple. He wasn't trying to put him in any kind of awkward situation. So we shouldn't make assumptions when we receive the order of the Guru. This is a characteristic of a Vaishnava. He doesn't make assumptions, accepts the Guru and his instructions blindly, in a sense. Blindly accepts those instructions. Number two, the disciple, Upamanyu here, was very simple at heart. If we are to develop the qualities of a Vaishnava, the character of a Vaishnava, it has to start with a simple heart. Simple heart means without any motivation. Without any motivation or something to gain for oneself. A simple heart is necessary to receive the instruction of the Guru. And number three, real vision is given by the Guru. We tend to think that with our own material mind and senses, education, family tradition, whatever we have, we tend to think that that gives us a vision of reality when we view the world. But real vision is given by the Guru. And we see that illustrated very nicely in this story. So these three things, not making assumptions about the order of the Guru, being prepared to follow them with simplicity at heart, and thus receiving genuine vision about how to view the world, how to act within the world, we can learn from this story. And it's important because what we're going to be focusing on, the principle that we're looking at here, and maybe our tech man can just push the next button there. The principle that we're going to be focusing on here in our discussion of the character of Vaishnava is a statement made by Srila Prabhupada. He happened to make this statement in the small little town in north central Florida that we come from, Gainesville, Florida. He visited that place in 1971, actually. And he said that he made a famous quote about being in this remote place, far, far from the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, referring to the little town we live in, Gainesville, Florida. But he made a very, very important statement there, and that's our principle that we're going to focus on. He was being interviewed by a reporter, and that reporter asked him the following question: how would I recognize a true follower of the Krishna consciousness movement? By his behavior. How would I recognize a true follower of the Krishna consciousness movement? By his behavior. Does anybody know what Prabhupada responds? Yeah. The question goes on, what would his traits be? Again, his character. What would his traits be? What would his outward expressions be? How would he relate to others? And Srila Prabhupada's response, as Prabhuji has just told us, he'd be a very perfect gentleman, that's all. You could not find any fault in him. That is perfect. That is perfect Krishna consciousness. So, perfect ladies and gentlemen. That's what Srila Prabhupada expected of each and every one of us in our interaction with society. We are representatives of Srila Prabhupada. We're representatives of the Vaishnava tradition. We're representatives of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of Lord Sri Krishna. And Prabhupada answered this question. And it came up several times, you'll find it. If you do a database search on this perfect gentleman, you find many times Prabhupada spoke about this, about how people viewed us. How people viewed us. What did he want them, what was his vision about how they would view us? He wanted us to be seen as perfect ladies and gentlemen. And so, with that aim in mind, with that vision in mind, we have developed this seminar to try to accomplish various things. The principle is to be a perfect lady or gentleman. The aim, what are we aiming at? What's our job? Myself and Madhumati Dasi, what's our job here over the next several days? It's to educate and inspire each and every one of you to internalize different values. We're going to be presenting different values and how they're illustrated by the lives of the devotees. And so we want to educate and inspire all of you with values based on the Shastra, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, so that you'll be able to externally manifest those values in your behavior. Our job is to teach and inspire you. What we would expect in reciprocation is that you can externalize these values and apply them in your life. Last night, Devarita Maharaj was saying how this wonderful place that we're situated in here has so many little kunjas and benches set up in different places, and they're places for association of devotees. And so what type of association is going to go on there? The loving exchanges between Vaishnavas will go on there, but hopefully the discussion will include some of these values that we're presenting, so that by discussion with others, they can become internalized by you and externally manifests in your behavior with one another. Because the character of a Vaishnava is most shown in relation to other Vaishnavas. Of course, in relation to the general public, to the world around us, yes, perfect ladies and gentlemen. But in the special dealings between each of us, between all of us, it's extremely important that we exchange these type, that our exchanges are based on these type of values, which we're going to be discussing here today. Not today, over the next several days. So that's our aim. The objective is what kind of things we would expect you all to be able to do when you take away from this seminar. Objectively understand your own motivations and then appreciate the motivations of others. It's so important to get a handle on our own motivations, why we're doing things. When I was here 3 years ago, Devarita Maharaj was showing us this video about environmental terrorists. And it showed how a relatively innocent young man, who maybe wasn't sure of his own motives, got an association that turned more and more and more and more radical. He kind of lost himself to situations that were beyond what he initially intended to get involved with, and he ended up in prison for several years. Maybe he wasn't quite sure about his own motivations, and therefore was influenced in ways in which were detrimental to his self-interest. So this type of a character building, character development, Vaishnava character development seminar is designed to help us appreciate our own motivations and be able to understand the short-term and long-term consequences of the behavior that we adopt. We need to be, or our objective is to be more thinking and contemplative people, devotees of the Lord, so that we can remain steady in devotional service over an extended period of time of our life. Giving shelter to others in good times and bad times, that's also something very important for a Vaishnava to be able to do. And that's something that's based on characters, values that are part of one's individual makeup. And thinking and reacting with good judgment. Good judgment is extremely important, whether you're just driving the Sankirtan van or you're leading the Krishna consciousness movement, which I hope that some of you in the future will take those responsibilities. But good judgment is based on strong character. If we don't develop our character, then our judgment is may be swept away by circumstances or bad association, or just a trying problems that occur in life in general. So those are a little bit of our objectives. Our method of instruction, we're going to be making different presentations, and we hope that you will all participate by asking questions, sharing the realizations, even challenging what we say here. We want to have that kind of exchange, and so challenge is also a part of that. So that's going to be our method of instruction. Presenting a value of Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, illustrating it, that value, with the lives of great devotees, and then talking about the implications or lessons we can learn from those devotees and apply in our own life. Okay, so does that give you some idea of where we're going in this thing? I hope so. Now, I know that there are different types of learning styles. So we're going to use one now to try to physically, it's kinetic learning, to physically portray what it means to have character. Why is character necessary? Hit that button for me there. Does character matter? How does it matter? So, do you know how to do a wave? Any how to do waves? Does everybody know how that works? So if we started over here, how would the wave look? Can you go ahead? Okay, come back this way. Good, okay, good. Keep it going. This is the ocean of material existence. Okay, now, Rob was kind enough to pick me up at the airport today. You want to stand up for me, Rob? Put your arms in the air like that. About one of the ladies over here. I have a volunteer, one of the ladies. Keep the wave going now. Keep the wave going. I need one lady to stand up over here. Okay, we got two. Keep the wave going. Keep the wave going. Okay, this is the wave of material existence. It can sweep us away at any time. We need to be very careful of the ocean. It's very powerful with its waves. But there are some things in the sea that give us steadiness, like our lighthouse here, Rob. He is strong and standing above the waves, just like character will make us stand above the waves, the shifting waves of material existence. So everyone get a good look at it here, because maybe nothing else will stick in your mind from this week of seminars. We want the image of the waves and the lighthouse here, because that's a visual illustration of character. Thank you very much. Okay, have you seen that the video of Prabhupada? Not the one crossing the Jaladuta. I think they took the sea from another video or something. Obviously couldn't be from the Jaladuta. But there's a real rough sea where waves are rolling like that. And Prabhupada, he crossed that sea. He crossed that sea with all the difficulties that were involved with that to give us Krishna consciousness. So just imagine his Vaishnava character, the determination at his age to board the Jaladuta and traverse the Indian Ocean, the Bay of Bengal, Atlantic Ocean, Mediterranean Sea, all these oceans with their waves he crossed just to come and start the Krishna conscious movement to benefit each and every one of us here today, 50 years later. So that's also an inspiration that we can take from this wave and lighthouse example. So, character and heart. I mentioned that we had heart in parentheses up there. What do we mean by character and heart? Sometimes character, although that's not the real meaning of character, but sometimes character is imitated. And we see it in terms of external actions. But external actions don't always reflect our internal motivations. And that can be good and bad. It can be bad when there's pretension by externally acting in a way, displaying a certain type of character, but then not really having that in your heart. And what usually happens when that's done? I mean, how long does it last? Right? It's a temporary kind of thing. You can put it on, but then the truth endures, it comes out. And so there's a difference sometimes between external actions and internal motivations. That's in the bad sense, but it's also there in the good sense, that sometimes our external actions are done with a desire to improve internally, to manifest good qualities, the qualities of a Vaishnava. And so we need to distinguish between the two. When are our external actions excusable because of our internal motivations. One of my all-time favorite letters of Srila Prabhupada deals with this subject, and it's a letter that was written to a lady named Lynn Ludwig. It was written in 1973 by Srila Prabhupada. And I want to share portions of that letter with you because it deals with this, the good side of external actions being different from internal motivations. And I think it's encouraging, actually, to all of us to be able to understand the differences here. And so let me read this letter to you. As I mentioned, it's dated from Los Angeles, April 30th, 1973. But it's responding to a letter that was written November 27th, 1972. So there were about 5 months lag time between the time the person wrote the letter to Prabhupada and when he answered. I mean, think about Srila Prabhupada. This is 1973. He's a world acharya at this point in time. He has thousands of disciples all over the world. And somebody writes him a letter complaining. And it's 5 months old. But he still answers it dutifully. Not dutifully, mercifully, lovingly. He answered her. The letter goes about 4 or 5 pages. Just imagine the character of Prabhupada's heart, that he would take the trouble to do that after such a long time. He could have easily just, oh well, didn't get to it, it's okay. The person's complaining anyway. But he didn't take that attitude. So that's exemplary of a Vaishnava character in itself, but to speak of what he says here. So let me read this to you and make some comments as we go along. My dear Lynn Ludwig, please accept my blessings. I beg to acknowledge receipt of your letter from California dated November 27, 1972. And I have noted the contents carefully. Although due to extensively traveling and preaching tour in India, I have not yet got the opportunity to reply to you at length until now. Your complaint is that you have met 2 of my young disciples in California, and they appear to you as having, quote, a very negative outlook toward the people they meet. Now, where do you suppose that Len Ludwig met those devotees? Airport, parking lot, street, Christmas marathon, you just come back. Maybe there's more than Ludwigs out there right now, I don't know. But anyway, she probably met them in a parking lot someplace in California. Of course, I do not know the case, what are the circumstances, but kindly forgive my beloved disciples any unkindness or indiscretions on their part. After all, to give up one's life completely for serving the Lord is not so easy thing. And Maya, or the illusory material energy, she tries extremely hard to try to get back and entrap those who have left her service to become devotees. So sometimes in the neophyte stage of devotional service, in order to withstand the attack of Maya and remain strong under all conditions of temptations, young or inexperienced devotees will adopt an attitude against those things or persons possibly harmful, threatening to their tender devotional reaper. Have any of you had experiences where you felt like you had to protect yourself like that? And maybe what you came out with, I mean, I don't know if it's so much prevalent today, but a lot of devotees back in the 70s, early 70s, who were joining Krishna consciousness movement, sort of took a very callous attitude, even towards family members, but to speak of others that they met. And that gives people an impression of what our character is. At least they see external behavior and they think that's character. But Prabhupada is making an important distinction here between why that external behavior may be there and what the actual motivations are. And so I think that's why this letter is so meaningful to me. He goes on, they may even overindulge in such feelings to protect themselves, and thus will appear to some non-devotees who are perhaps themselves still very enamored by the material energy of Maya as being negative or pessimistic. Negative or pessimistic. People may think by our external behavior that that's what we are, but Prabhupada nicely explains in this letter what the internal life of a devotee actually is. The devotee, once whose life is surrendered to Krishna, is always enjoying great satisfaction and bliss, and he is constantly enlightening. He is constantly enlightened, always positive, not negative, as you say. The advanced devotee is the friend of everyone. Purified souls engaged in loving devotional service to Krishna. He is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. And in another place, Krishna claims that his devotee, who is very dear to him, is not envious, but the kind friend of all living entities. The devotee is supposed to be, furthermore, equal to everyone, never discriminating. This one is good, this one is bad. No. So these are descriptions of the more advanced stages of Krishna conscious devotees when he has gotten mature by knowledge, by development, and at the present, many of our students are young boys. They are gradually learning, and the process is so effective, certain, and authorized that if they stick to it, they will come to the right point, as you say, of loving. This is a process that we're involved in. It was a process that our disciple that we read about, that Madhumati gave us a story of, he was involved in a process. He went through different tests of his guru and finally developed to the point where he could understand his guru, he could understand that his vision comes from his guru. We're also involved in a process. Initially, our hearts may be a little rough or protected, as Prabhupada's explaining here, but that's not a fault. That's not a fault if we continue along with the path to mature by accepting the process. Prabhupada concludes this letter by saying, even if a devotee commits the most abominable actions, he is considered to be saintly because he is properly situated. As you say, to err is human. So in the neophyte stage, we may always expect some discrepancies are there. Kindly see the things in this light and forgive their small mistakes. The big thing is that they have given their life, everything to Krishna. That is never a mistake. Irreverent Wisher A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Prabhupada very, very clearly in this letter makes a distinction between external actions and internal actions. But because the internal actions are properly situated, he asks forgiveness of Len Ludwig and the whole world for those that in an immature stage may display qualities which are negative or abrupt or abusive or whatever. So we should take that lesson and apply it to ourselves. We must continue to develop and mature. We must focus on these type of values and develop our character so that our external behavior and internal behavior become one. Because how long can you expect to ask forgiveness from others? Can we just go on doing that indefinitely? Acting with poor behavior externally and say, well, forgive me, I'm just a neophyte. No, that's not good enough. We have to develop these things. Does everyone agree with that, or maybe someone has some objection to that? That we can remain? Okay. So I'll note that down on the exam. So Prabhupada wrote that letter, and he explained some of the differences between internal and external. There's another dynamic that I want to point out about character, which has this internal, external characteristic to it, and that is character versus Vaishnava etiquette. Now, I know that Vaishnava etiquette, and probably you know also, you're all wonderful Vaishnavas, Vaishnava etiquette is an internal process, but a lot of times it's externally manifest. For instance, what are some aspects of dress which can be under the heading of Vaishnava etiquette? Tilak, wearing tilak. What else? Neck beads. What else do we have? That's external manifestation of Vaishnava etiquette. In dresses there, what about in eating? We eat with our right hand, right? I mean, you know, if you go to India, sometimes the devotees are in India, they're afraid, someone's come to India for the first time, they're afraid they'll do something wrong, right? They'll eat with their left hand, or they'll do something, or scratch their head this way or something, I don't know. They're afraid, that they're going to manifest some behavior that's not according to the proper Vaishnava etiquette. So there's things like dress, cleanliness, even kirtan. There's etiquette in kirtan, in management. What else do I have here? Serving and honoring prasad. I remember the first time I served prasadam to His Holiness Jayapataka Swami. He was visiting Gita Nagari, that some of you may be familiar with since Deva Rita Maharaj is involved there. He was visiting Gita Nagari, this is 78 or something like that. And so I was serving prasadam to all the sannyasis. I was a brahmachari at that time. And so I served a sweet on Jayapataka Maharaj's plate. And he screamed out, "Ah!" because I put the sweet in the wrong place. And you know, he let me know that, and everybody else as well. Screaming out like that. But it's a matter of Vaishnava etiquette. No, you serve the sweet here, or you serve the sweet after, you bring it on a separate plate, whatever. There are all these rules and regulations that are involved with Vaishnava etiquette. And obviously we need to be aware of them. But at the same time, those things can be very expertly done by Kali Chela. You know who Kali Chela is? He's a servant. He's actually the personification of Vaishnava aparad. He's the personification of do the wrong thing for the wrong motive. And how is he dressed? Yeah, he's dressed with kunti mala. He's got the shika on his head. And maybe dressed like a Pakka Vaishnava. Externally, he's following Vaishnava etiquette. Externally, we might say, he has the character of a Vaishnava. But does he really? What's in his heart? What's in his heart? What's in the heart ultimately matters. First example, we may be excused by bad behavior because we're neophyte and we're just in the process. We may be excused. But we'll never be excused if our heart is in the wrong place, but we take a very detailed position of Vaishnava etiquette, doing everything according to the rules and regulations. So we need to be aware of this dynamic, internal actions, internal motivations, so that we do the right thing. And how do we understand what is the right thing to do? Well, that's a lot about what we're going to be talking about in this course, but it's not like we come with a blank slate, is it? I mean, we all have certain types of social, familial, societal upbringings that give us different values. I have on the slide up here, moral compass. Where do your values come from? I mean, before being a devotee. I'm speaking of before being a devotee. Where do your values come from? Parents. Where else? Parents. School. Oh, yeah. One of the reasons why I have Gurukul, isn't it? Is like so our kids don't have to go there and get the values from the other kids, right? School. So parents, school. Where else?
Social media.
Social media. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I don't know if do you know Lakshmi Moni Mataji here? You know Lakshmi Moni Mataji? Yeah, she used to regularly show this presentation on the media and how they specifically and diabolically were going about trying to ruin people's character or get them to buy products and things like that, and how they use other students in the school. They find out the popular person in school, and they actually get that person, they give them some money or something, and they go around basically advertising Sprite or Coca-Cola or something like that, so all their students think, well, that's a cool thing to do. So very, very diabolical. So social media, yeah. Where else do we get our values from? Church, right? Or religion, to some degree, those things. Yeah, so each one of us has a moral compass that we come into or bring into our lives as Vaishnavas. But I think that the process of Krishna consciousness means that we have to start moving from those things, even though they may be good. We may have a good work ethic, we may be honest, we may be just from these other sources, but again, how long do they last? How long, and at what point do those waves that we envisioned here a while ago knock down the lighthouse? When do we have to abandon those things, or when do those things abandon us? I think we need to look at that very carefully, and that's why we are advocating here objectives of behavior that are based on the Shastra, the eternal truths of the Vedic literatures, as opposed to all these other sort of mundane sources. Our objective here is to base our values on Bhagavad Gita as opposed to just these other material sources. In that regard, myself and several devotees, friends of mine, who are working together in the Ministry of Justice. David Maharaj mentioned last night how one of my services is in the ISKCON Ministry of Justice. We deal with all the problems that are there in ISKCON. Not all of them, fortunately. Handle all of them, but a lot of problems end up on our doorstep. And they range from management conflicts, conflicts between devotees and the outside world, conflicts between one devotee and another. All these things come to us, and we've analyzed things, and we've come to the conclusion that if devotees had some character training and character development skills, that a lot of the difficulties could be resolved. A lot of what we find is people take hard stances and they're not willing to compromise one way or another, and there's nothing that we can really do. So you have this unsolved problem in our society, that unsolved problem in our society, and sooner or later, it's going to come to a tipping point as these things build up. So what we felt that we could do about that is to undertake what we call a Gita Values Project, where we utilize the 50th anniversary of ISKCON year, which is starting in a few days, to emphasize certain qualities and characteristics from the Bhagavad Gita that can help us deal with our problems. So those are the things we're going to focus our discussions on in the next several days. But let me just give you some idea about them. We focused on 6 qualities from the Bhagavad Gita, and they are humility, nonviolence, equal vision, and what else here? You see, I'm advocating this, but I can't even remember them. There's only 6. I need an acronym, actually. If anybody's good at acronyms here, when I get all the 6 of these things listed, if you can think of some easy way to remember them, that would help me. Okay, humility, nonviolence, equal vision, affection, duty or dharma, and the last is choice or individuality. These 6 we chose over many others that are there in Bhagavad Gita, primarily because if we get these 6 down, then many other qualities we find in Bhagavad Gita are subsets of them. And so 6 are what we chose to focus on because they can help us in making choices in terms of our service, our motivations, and our choices. Because we're all faced with these kind of things daily. We have our work, we have our service, where whether we'll be persons of character or not is important. We have our desires and motivations, which we need to keep in line with those things, those principles of Krishna consciousness, which help us to advance. And we need to relate with others in ways in which are productive or conducive to developing our Krishna consciousness. So those things are going to be the focus, and we're going to try to shift our motivations from that moral compass that we all come with materially to a more transcendental base that will last and not disappear any time of trial. So that brings us to the question of, and you want to go to the next slide there. Are we, in the Ministry of Justice, engaged in the practice of pushing mundane morality on the devotees? Is this whole idea of character and qualities, values, is it mundane morality? Actually, I've gotten that feedback from different devotees I've talked to about the project. They said, well, you guys have gone off, you're just engaged in mundane morality. So that bothered me a lot, so I've been searching and researching to try to counter that idea. And I found in Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book, Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita, a discussion he has there of primary dharma and secondary dharma. Did I have those notes written down, or did you have them there? Okay. Primary dharma, no, they're there. Can you call up that page 9 and 10? Okay. So what is primary dharma? What is secondary dharma? These things are important to understand. Primary dharma, what is primary dharma? What would you, anybody want to venture a guess what's primary dharma? Again, Sanatan Dharma, yeah. Following the orders of the spiritual master, yes. Okay. I touched it and it went someplace else. Anything else? Primary Dharma. Service to Krishna. Yes. Worshipping Krishna, actually, that's primary Dharma. Worshipping Krishna. So we do a lot of dovetailing and things like that. So what is secondary Dharma?
Ashram Dharma?
Ashram Dharma. That can be secondary, yeah, that can be secondary. It can also be primary, that's what we're going to get to, but yes, Ashram Dharma. Anything else?
To give Krishna consciousness.
Varna, secondary, yes.
To give, try to give Krishna consciousness to all.
To try, that would be primary Dharma, right?
No,
Secondary.
so
Okay.
because primary is always I need to work on me. So when I work on me, I can give to others.
And then giving to others becomes secondary.
I think
Interesting. Okay, well let me read the Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as I say. Okay? It says rules are of two types, primary and secondary. Those rules which directly lead us to serving and satisfying the Lord are called primary rules. So lead us directly to serving and satisfying the Lord are primary duties. Remember our story of the guru and the disciple. He got actual vision from the guru, and therefore that was primary. He saw things primary at that point. And even things like eating and maintaining his own body were secondary in the guru's instruction. Right?
I mean, when you got a spiritual master, supposedly you try to do what your spiritual master say to you. So that became your primary. So secondary is because with the instruction of your spiritual master, you give Krishna consciousness to others.
Mm.
So second.
Well, I see what you're saying. I would say that both are primary. That both are primary. Now, if, for instance, we do things that are for getting our own mind and body together so that we can serve the Guru, then unless those things, getting the mind and body together, are connected with serving the Guru, they become secondary dharma. Let me give you this example that Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives. He says, those rules of life which to indirectly support that goal are called secondary. This will become clear by giving an example. Taking an early morning bath is a rule. By doing this, the body becomes fresh and disease-free, and the mind as well becomes steady. If the mind is steady, one can worship the Lord properly. Here the goal, worship of the Lord, is not the immediate intention of the bath. The bath's direct result is bodily comfort. If bodily comfort is accepted as a final goal of the bath, then worship of the Lord is not at all achieved. In other words, if we work on ourselves and we get ourselves together, but if we don't connect that with service to the Guru, giving Krishna consciousness to others, then working on ourselves, taking a bath, getting our mind and body situated, all that is secondary dharma or secondary rules. When I say those same things are connected with the primary rule of worshiping Krishna, then they also become primary rules. Does that make sense? Is it clear to everyone? It's important to get this distinction down because a lot of times otherwise people will think that when you talk about character development, you talk about these things of equal vision, non-violence, humility. People could think that you're involved in just mundane morality because many people try to cultivate those things. But what's the reality behind those things is service to Krishna. And without them, it's useless. I did sum this up in writing here, speaking about specifically the Gita values. Gita values are characteristics of the soul, and as such they are primary dharma. When these characteristics come in contact with material nature, they become secondary dharma, such as mundane morality. So originally, the soul has these things: humility, equal vision, affection. All these things are characteristics of the soul. And so to develop them in our characters, to strengthen those things, to focus on those things, is wonderful because it's primary dharma, if and only if it's connected with serving Krishna. Otherwise, it's a secondary principle. Taking a bath, unless it's connected with our service to Krishna, is mundane morality. But when it's connected with Krishna, it becomes devotional service, the primary value. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes in book distribution I'll present the books as giving access, if you like, to equal vision, affection, individuality, non-violence, etc. And so you might say that that's a misrepresentation of the book. Is that
Well, actually, Dave Riedemars and I were having to talk about this just the other day. Oh, okay. The question is, well, why don't I just let him see it?
sometimes I advertise the books as being about non-violence and dharma and affection, equal vision, etc. And from what you were just saying about doing those things for the sake of doing them, that becomes secondary when they actually could be primary. So am I misrepresenting the books when they're actually about worshipping Krishna, primary dharma?
Does anybody have anything they'd like to say in answer to this question? Mars, would you like to say anything in answer to this question?
Since you asked me, I was waiting to be enlightened myself, as you have had. The books are about all those things you mentioned. And secondly, distributing our transcendental literature to the general public is transcendental marketing. So you're trying to interest the person in the book for their benefit. The best thing is to say, this book is all about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But it may take you some years to develop the potency and dependency on Krishna in order to be effective in that way. But in the meantime, while you're waiting for that potency to descend, people need these books. This is actually the example Srila Prabhupada gave us in New York in 1973, where they were saying things, the Sankirtan devotees were saying things much more dramatic than what you just said. Non-violence, humility, what else? Affection. They were saying, well, they were quite exaggerating. So Srila Prabhupada's response was, first of all, he totally shot down mundane morality. There's no question of lying, there's no question of the book distributor being duplicitous, because the book distributor is presenting the factual knowledge in the book. So, he even just wrote in a letter, actually, the book distributor can say any damn thing. But, there is a higher platform. And he said, actually, there's enough attractiveness in these books that you can present them completely on their own merit without having to make dramatic statements. He said, but that is an advanced stage, and it will take a long time to reach that point. Meanwhile, do not diminish your book distribution. So it was a very brilliant, transcendently brilliant letter, juxtaposing, alternating between various states of spiritual development, neophyte and advanced stage, alternating between mundane morality and transcendental morality. Transcendental morality means everything belongs to Krishna. Everyone is Krishna's servant. So what is the question of exaggeration or lie? And then he went to pragmatics. It's going to take a while for you to get to that stage where you can walk up to someone and say, excuse me, where are you coming from? Where are you going? Krishna's Supreme Personality. It's going to take a while for you to get to that stage. So in the meantime, don't diminish the book distribution. Let the public get the medicine while you're learning how to be the best doctor. And then he shifted to the pragmatic scene, that we are an outreach society and we don't want to do things that will cause the public to be outraged, and because that will diminish the effectiveness of our outreach. So he interchanged all these different levels and dimensions. He didn't sacrifice or compromise the transcendental morality. At the same time, he pointed out the pragmatics. We're in this world, and we have to act in such a way that we don't damage our credentials in the eyes of the public by doing things like, for example, look at these beautiful flowers in this house. We know who these flowers belong to. We're going to pick all these flowers. Who cares what the Karmis say? What they've stolen these flowers. They belong to Krishna. We're going to make a beautiful garland for Gurudev. It's a fact that all the flowers belong to Krishna. At the same time, we're trying to do outreach in this world, and we don't want to adverse public reaction because the public is seeing, at best, on the platform of mundane morality, what are these Hare Krishnas doing, stealing the flowers? So we have, bhakti is very deep, and it's very multifaceted. That's why we're so fortunate to have Shesha Prabhu making this presentation, so you can see how vastly profound this bhakti science is, in both, in terms of wisdom, jnana, and vijnana application. Since you asked me to.
Thank you, Maharaj. Of course, you'll also recall when we were there together in Los Angeles in those days as brahmacharis, that BTG, Bhakti Guided Magazine, did, in the estimation of several senior devotees and Srila Prabhupada, confirmed by Srila Prabhupada, did drift in ways in which were to mundane morality, so he had to intercede and bring it back to a more direct primary dharma, as we're saying here. So it's a dynamic that we have to be careful in. As Mars pointed out, this is a process. Just like our friend with his guru in the beginning we started. It's a process. We may not get it right because it's a very deep subject matter, as he says. But we have to try to develop in this way so that we can work towards getting it right. It's because it's our own individual responsibility getting it right. You may be out on the street interacting with someone in terms of Krishna consciousness. You may be interacting with a government official. You may be interacting with a religious leader. All these things, and they're going to notice what they can from their stage. And their stage is, at best, mundane morality. So we can't afford to alienate them, expecting them to understand our actions on a higher reality. So my question here is, are the Gita values primary or secondary Dharma, and why? We've touched a little bit on that, but does anyone have any comments they'd like to make on that question, or anything they'd like to share with the other devotees? Yes?
Doesn't Prabhupada explain a little bit in these purports about how they can be applied as primary? Like, for example, you mentioned non-violence. You mentioned what non-violence is.
Right.
So if we keep that Prabhupada vision, then we're able to make sure it stays primary rather than secondary.
Exactly. We follow Prabhupada's vision, and all these qualities have been described in Bhagavad Gita, and he gives long purports to those verses where these qualities are listed. I think in the 13th chapter there's some, and in another chapter as well. And so in the purport he gives what nonviolence means, what all these things mean. If we in our intelligence think that it's something else, we're like that disciple in this beginning story, aren't we? We're thinking that we have the correct vision of what these things are, and we may pursue them in ways in which lead us to fall into a ditch or something. That's a very good point, thank you. Yes?
I just wanted to know what kind of arguments you were saying that there's some devotees were expressing that, or you're getting towards a mundane thing. So I was just wondering what was their basis of saying that it was mundane qualities.
Well, just like Mara said, these flowers, they belong to Krishna. Going to an ultimate reality and ignoring social reality. Immediately saying, well, everything belongs to Krishna, therefore I'm a servant of Krishna, therefore I can take it, and I'm a moral person. Claiming like that. I think that kind of things beyond our realization. I think Srila Prabhupada, if Srila Prabhupada was walking down the street and he picked someone's flower and they came out to complain, he would perfectly charm them by telling them that it is for Krishna. And they would accept it because he has that coming from his heart. That's the point. We're talking about not just external manifestations here, but from the heart, the actual manifestation coming out. So that's what it has to be, as opposed to some kind of crookedness or not simplicity in the heart. Yes, please.
Just on that point of properly expressing emotions, another one is anger. So, for example, Prabhupada, when he heard people saying derogatory things about Krishna from an impersonalist point of view, he become angry. For someone like myself, how would I properly apply?
Yeah, anger, transcendental anger. Yes, Prabhupada wasn't an impersonalist where the devotee doesn't become angry. If someone's disrespecting Krishna, blaspheming Krishna, the devotee has certain duties. And Prabhupada had them, and we have them as well. There are three things that one does when there's blasphemy of a Vaishnava or Krishna. Does anybody know what those three things are? There's three things. Let's get to that by getting the others listed first. Defeat them.
If you can't respond accordingly, you must leave it.
Right. Either defeat them by challenging their argument and prove to them that, or if you can't do that, then leave. Now, is the third one like cut the tongue out? It is, the third one is cutting the tongue. Well, cutting the tongue out. Well, there are certain things you can do. I'm going to take shelter of my heart here. There are certain things you can do, that Prabhupada could do, that we can't imitate. Or as you told the story yourself about he couldn't take the cake because he can't imitate what his guru can do. And so I think we better think twice before we immediately jump to cutting tongues out. Mars. Pass it over to Mars.
You actually said of course, a transcendental truth when you said that you're quite sure Prabhupada was walking and some devotees took flowers. The owner complained Prabhupada would heartfully and with knowledge convince the person. This actually happened. In Australia, devotees found a greenhouse business of flowers. And they were raiding the greenhouse of flowers. This is 1972, so this almost 50 years ago. So they were raiding the greenhouse for flowers to offer to Krishna. And so the owner got onto it and somehow made a court case against the devotees. And so one lawyer, kind of a liberal lawyer who always stood up for the underdogs, defended them. And the lawyer's attitude was, well, these young idealistic devotees got a bit out of hand, but I'm going to stand up for them, push back the system, and protect the little guys. And it was one, those kind of lawyers exist, right? So the devotees, after he did that, he got the devotees out of the court case. He solved the whole thing. And then he went to see Prabhupada when Prabhupada came to Melbourne, Australia. And the lawyer was explaining to Prabhupada, very proudly that, yeah, your boys, got a bit out of hand there, but, with my prowess, I solved everything. They did a bit of hanky-panky, a bit of, And Prabhupada, what was his response? They are right. To lecture the man about how everything belongs to Krishna. And finally the lawyer accepted. So no doubt, Prabhupada saw that the lawyer had done a devotional service by helping the devotees, so therefore Prabhupada seized an opportunity to give him transcendental knowledge. Yes, everything belongs to Krishna. They have done no wrong. And then, after the lawyer left, of course, Prabhupada told the GBC person to make sure their devotees don't do these things anymore. He's shifting levels so inconceivably.
Any other questions? Yes, please.
Thank you for those. There's been a couple of discussions recently that devotees, we can have this tendency to think that the rules of this world will not apply to us. And I was thinking about it, but I think human behaviour, if we come across some great wealth or something like billionaires or whatever, the tendency can be I'm above the rules. And I think maybe as devotees we come and the wealth is we have the highest of everything. And I think there is a danger there that we think, well, I'm above. And I think sometimes the non-devotees interpret this as arrogance. So maybe speak a little bit.
Yeah, we tend to think that we're above the rules, and the response from the public is that we appear to be arrogant. Well, I think that's what Lynn Ludwig, basically ran into as well. We may be above the rules and regulations as Vaishnavas, but what kind of Vaishnavas are we? I think that is a process. We're in a process. And we have to understand our stage of development and act accordingly. If we act beyond our realization, maybe you've heard that term, act beyond realization, then we're bound to get ourselves into difficulty. So we need to act according to our realization, understand that yes, everything does belong to Krishna, but not create a disturbance in society. Otherwise, how will we exist as a society if we keep causing difficulty? We've had in different countries around the world, in Germany, for instance, in the 70s, you can imagine, I don't know if anybody knows Hans Duda here, but Hans Duda and the German devotees were just like wild with enthusiasm for spreading Krishna consciousness. It sometimes grated against the government a bit, and they banned the society, or there's a big court case. Ultimately, the devotees won, the court case, by Krishna's case. But they were in difficulty and limited in their ability to practice sometimes. It's happened elsewhere also. I think in Singapore, there was some restriction placed on devotees. I don't know the origin, but I imagine it may be similar kind of thing. Sort of immature zeal that caused difficulty. You know, we want enthusiasm, and unbridled enthusiasm is great. That's how this movement spread all over the world. But at the same time, we have to be responsible that we don't do things which end up setting that agenda back a little bit. So, yes.
So, something that when you start, I wanted to ask is, when this, about the history, when the devotee, his spiritual master requests to him that he wants to worship in whom?
Ashwini Kumar.
Yeah. So, I think if that was the instruction and the Ashwini Kumara said to him that they need to eat, I mean, it's like, was the instruction to worship him, and I don't understand. I mean, you know, every example, I think, have a limitation.
Mm.
So, is that part as well, because the instruction was he needs to worship in the Ashwini Kumaras, and wherever the Ashwini Kumaras gives to him is an instruction as well, so I don't understand.
No, you're absolutely right. That is an instruction as well, but there are many instructions in an instance, and the instruction that we're focusing on in giving that story is that the lesson he learned about before he does anything, he takes the permission of his guru. So even in that situation, Ashwini Kumar said, take this cake, it'll cure your blindness. He had become so chaste and obedient to his guru that he was willing to do what the Ashwini Kumar has asked, but let me ask him first. Let me go to my guru and get his permission first before I do anything, because his history had been, he did this, and his Guru Maharaj didn't specifically say that. He did this, and he was getting constantly corrected like that. He was being tested like that, ultimately he was a test. But yeah, I think that's the lesson that we're focusing on. It's not that this other lesson, obviously he did take it and he got his eyesight back. First, that permission of the Guru was important. And if you look at a hierarchy of how we do things, maybe that is the most important thing before we do anything. We may have intellectual ability, we may have different types of talents, we have so many things that we can do. But first we ask permission of our Guru. Just like Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, what did he do first thing before the battle started? I mean, after he was ready to fight in Bhagavad Gita, he explained. Does anybody know what he did?
He went to his authorities, didn't he? He went to Yudhishthira. Well,
Yeah, well, that's what Yudhishthira did. Yudhishthira walked across. Maybe it wasn't the battle, but another battle. Arjuna, before he fought, he shot an arrow at the feet of Dronacharya. So, in respect. So that respect first to the Guru, then let me act. I think that is the point of that story. And I think that is the highest principle for a disciple to act. Has my Guru approved this, then I'll do it, otherwise I won't do it. Yes?
Thank you very much. It's a much needed seminar, especially for the average society. Like Semi Goswami likes to say that the pots make a lot of noise in the kitchen, so sometimes I have a question. So the young devotees, very new devotees, sometimes they notice the Krishna Bhakti, and when they see the senior devotees display negative behaviors, they can lose faith in the process. So how can these devotees be healed? And also, if a senior devotee constantly displays negative behaviors, although they have good intentions, as you were saying in the beginning, should they be in the leadership role in the first place?
Yeah, well, senior devotee is not just on the basis of age or longevity in ISKCON. It is based on developing the qualities of a Vaishnava. And so what we're going to be talking about in coming days are 10 levels of respect that you can give someone. And so the principle is, yes, give respect, but there may be gradations or a hierarchy in how you give that respect. So we'll be talking about that a bit, and it may help answer your question. But just in general, yeah, senior devotees have a responsibility that comes along with that seniority. And that is to exhibit good behavior, to be an example for younger devotees. And if they're not doing that, then the question comes, well, actually, are they senior? Maybe they're not. And we should look for senior devotees on other terms than just age or longevity in ISKCON, and seek out association based on that rather than just longevity. It's a complicated situation that often involves experiences that devotees may have had in their lives where they were discouraged, disillusioned, or whatever by those who thought they thought they accepted as senior, and sort of like as a self-perpetuating downward spiral. But I think the answer is ultimately we all have individual responsibilities as a spiritual master to exhibit the qualities of Vaishnava and to relish doing that, or not to feel forced, but to relish doing that. And as Mara said, take advantage of a gathering like this to go off and talk with someone that maybe there's some little strain in the relationship or something, or you haven't seen someone for a long time. Well, taking advantage of an opportunity like this to interact in ways in which can heal or nurture the relationships. Okay. I was told by Mars at 9:30 we have to end, so I don't know how much time is it. Oh, it's maybe the last question.
So, thank you very much for that. So we have to act to represent Srila Prabhupada, but sometimes, or maybe a lot of the time, we see that we're not capable of representing what a Vaishnava actually is, especially in preaching. Sometimes someone won't boil your blood or books or something, and at least amongst the devotees, if you're sincere, you can always apologize, but you can't always go and apologize to the conditioned souls. You don't get to see them again. So how do we resolve this? Because we also have the instruction to spread Krishna consciousness, but we're practicing, we're not perfect, we're not pure.
How do we make amends if we cause some disturbance in society while we're preaching? I want to answer that by giving you a personal story about myself. That's okay. When I was in 6th grade, we had a girl in our class who had some physical handicap. And obviously, elementary school students aren't very kind to each other, very cruel to her. I don't remember being cruel, having a cruel interaction with that girl. I don't remember myself doing that. But the first time I went out on Sankirtan, the very first time, I was in Washington, D.C. And by the way, I was in the 6th grade with this girl in the west coast of the United States in Washington State. The first time I went out on Sankirtan was in Washington, D.C., which is on the east coast of the United States, 3,000 miles. I was on the mall, which is the place, big promenade where they have all the museums and national monuments and everything like that. Thousands of people every day go out there. The first person I met when I was was that girl. And she said, I know you. I was shaved up. I wasn't shaved up. She said, I know you. She said my legal name. When we were in 6th grade, you criticized me. I was shocked. How did I meet this person after so many years, so much distance? And here I was as devotee, as Dodi and Kurta, and she was calling me a hypocrite. And I didn't remember, as I said, saying to him, but obviously I did, or she remembered it that way. And so Krishna showed me, this is the point, Krishna will make the arrangements for us. We just have to keep our eyes open, and we'll get the chance to make amends for offenses that we commit. So that's the transcendental nature of what we're doing. We're distributing books to please Srila Prabhupada, to enlighten society, to benefit ourselves, to become purified ourselves, and whatever arrangements, however fantastic they may be, can be arranged by Krishna for our purification. We may meet the person while we stop to put petrol in the car or something, and there they might be, and oh, that's the person. And we should take the opportunity Krishna gives us to try to rectify it if it's appropriate. So yeah, Krishna can do anything. I'm convinced of that by that personal experience. I do think we have to do that. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit in a few days about Ambarish, Maharaj, Durvasa Muni, and Lord Vishnu, and how that situation where Durvasa offended Ambarish, what that did to Durvasa's spiritual life, and what Lord Vishnu's response was. So it's a part of the same thing. Okay. All right, I think that we should probably end at this point. Thank you very much. Look forward to the next session. Hare Krishna.